Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project in conjunction with Torah Anytime. Today we are privileged to be joined by Rabbi Sholem Fishbane, Kashrus Administrator of the Chicago Rabbinical Council and Executive Director of ACO. Thank you, Rabbi Fishbane, for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to see you. An issue that has drawn a lot of attention of late is a Kol Koreh that was released by Gedolei Rabbanim regarding home-based businesses. And if I would summarize it, I would say that the Rabbanim said that in their opinion, they feel that we should go back to the way things were, where people were vigilant about not consuming food that was produced to be sold unless it had some kind of kashrus supervision. Based on your experience, and you've been in kashrus for many years, you've seen a lot of things. What would you say is the difference primarily between today and years ago as it relates to home-based businesses?
Well, many people think this is a new thing, the Kol Koreh. It's not the case at all. These are not new halachas that someone can say that the Gedolei Poskim decided that, let's look at home businesses. It's a reminder. It reminds me of actually Gemara in Yerushalmi in Shkolim, where the famous machlokes between Rav and Levi, if you leave a piece of meat on the floor and you basar shana salmonai and you come back and you see the meat, can you use it or not? And Rav says no, and seemingly a reason that a dog would come and schlep it and bring another piece of meat, is that really what we're concerned about? And the Yerushalmi says a fascinating thing. He says that Rav observed that the people in his times were becoming lax in kashrus. So he was mechazik the halachas and gave chizuk to the kashrus. And I think that the Rabbanim, the Poskim, the Mamash, the Gedolei Poskim that signed on that Kol Koreh started seeing and hearing that it's becoming a little bit lax again, especially if you want to say post-COVID, when the inner chef and the inner baker came out of people and they were either at home or whatnot, mm-hmm. and that stuck. So I think that's why we're being reminded again of age-old halachas. You can look through the sugyas. As a matter of fact, about 500 years ago, there was something called the Vada Arba Artsois that was around for several hundred years, and one of the from the greatest, the Marsha, the Bach, the Kleyocher, the Levush, they were all part of that. And one of the big takanas that they gave out, in actually, if you want to know the year, it was 1595. Okay, so we're talking a long time ago. Not to buy food and wine from anyone, including Shomer Torah mitzvahs, without a hechsher of the local Rav. So I want to be clear, this is not a new thing. And again, there's a Beis Hillel, and there's Aruch HaShulchan, and the Chelkas B'Yam does a great job in this is not a sugya. Why is it coming back, and what's the difference from, things were much simpler back then. There was a shtetl, mm-hmm. There was a couple of ingredients that you grew in your backyard, and really the Hechsheirim of Amal was a Rav saying that this person, A, knows the halachas of kashrus well, mm-hmm. and B, is a category of a Yorei Es Hashem Mirabim, which is in halacha there's various levels of a Yiras Hashem, and it's a very high level. That's really where that's the way it was on Mol. Fast forward to our century, quite a different world, and both in ingredients and manufacturers and in knowledge. It's amazing, even though we've gone through Baruch Hashem, the system, and learning, we're all very learned, but I don't know, maybe that we need to be mechazik in teaching Hilchas Kashrus in our schools. I think that would be a great thing. So things are different, but this Kol Koreh is not a new thing. It's not a new halacha. It's a reminder. It's a chizuk, and it reminds me. There's actually there's an Agudas HaRabbanim that was written about 100 years ago, that one should not give a hechsher to a meat company that also has non-kosher meat, another, chelik, a meat provision that also has non-kosher meat. This was written 100 years ago. And every 30, 40 years, the Rabbanim of the time rewrote it or mechazik even more. When Rav Moshe signed on it again, they added in, even if he just owns shares in a corporation of a non-kosher meat. Mm-hmm. This is the history of these type of things. And Baruch Hashem, we have the Gedolim who are in tune to what's happening today. Mm-hmm. And therefore, mechazik once again some of these halachas that are not new, as I said.
Now, I wanted to suggest, I was thinking as you're talking regarding the prevalence of these businesses, that maybe there is a difference. Whereas years ago, if someone made biscottis or brownies in their kitchen, or even meat boards or sushi or whatever it is that they were making in their home kitchen, for them to sell it and to get it out there was hard. It was hard. How are you going to do that? Nowadays, with social media and all different mediums of advertising and getting your product out there, it's really much easier, right? You post some pictures, people see it, people forward it around. It's definitely a different world, and maybe that's why the home business has taken on a life of its own.
Very good insight. And if I could say, I've been thinking about why are people almost in wonderment, like we discussed earlier, is this a new thing? Like, what is this? And maybe even a little of a pushback. And you know what? It's a very interesting insight into the human nature. The truth is, Yura Shemayim, if you invite me for a Shabbos meal, I'd gladly come. I'd even fly in from Chicago if you would so invite us. But because I trust you and you're Shemayim, and that's the end of it. So the same person that looks the exact same at 9 o'clock in the morning, but at 12 o'clock decided to make the same product but sell it, no longer acceptable. Why is that?
So you're asking what everyone's asking is, why don't we say Eid Echadam B'Yisurin for this person who has this home-based business?
It's not only from the halachic aspect, but it's it's the same person. As a matter of fact, one of the Chelkas B'Yamim talks about, let's say somebody decided to bake something to sell, and it didn't sell, and now they want to go ahead and just serve it at a Shabbos table as a guest. Are they allowed to eat it? That's how far this. The answer is, I don't know anything other than what the Torah tells us. The Torah says edus, that when a person sells something for profit, it has a different effect. Even the greatest amongst us, the greatest Yerei Shemayim, the Torah says edus, when it comes to profit, there's a chashash. This is not my words, obviously. It goes, right? And I think that the same Rebbeinu Shalom that created the human and created what the nisyonos the humans have, also created the halachas to keep us in. And these gedolei olam that signed this Kol Koreh, they have the great insight, not only to understand the halacha, but through Torah to understand the human being.
I want to mention also, because we were speaking off camera about this topic, and you stressed to me that the Gedolei Rabbanim who signed this particular Kol Koreh, just like all the Rabbanim when they make such a weighty decision, took into account the fact that we're talking about people who have businesses, they rely on it for parnasa. It wasn't done willy-nilly. It was done with tremendous shekel and weighing all the different variables. I think that's an important point. People shouldn't think that Rabbanim make a decision just offhanded type of thing where you sign a paper and tell people to go get a hashgacha.
Right. It was, from my understanding, very, as you said, thought through, looking at the metzias, the halacha, and the practicality of how to make it work. And as I said earlier, it really is all the Rabbanim did was attest to what Chazal have told us since Sheshes Meim Bereishis. When a person sells something for profit, the metzias of the human being changes. And if you look in the halachas, that supports it, and that's all they're reminding us of that halacha. As much as it's hard psychologically to comprehend, but it's the same Yitzchok Hisiger.
Right. Well, thank you. We look forward to continuing this discussion in the next episode.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.